You didn't find this message by accident. Something in the quiet layers of your being summoned it. A whisper beneath the noise, a pulse behind the heartbeat. You know those days when everything flows where your breath, your thoughts, your steps align as if the universe itself were exhaling through you. That's not luck. That's coherence. And you've also known its opposite. The heavy mornings when nothing fits, when your chest feels like static, when even light seems to resist entering the room. These aren't random mood swings. They're signals. Your inner field is broadcasting a pattern, and reality, faithful as an echo, keeps replaying it back to you. Science hints at this dance through electromagnetism and waveforms. Spirit names it energy, soul, vibration, different languages for the same invisible architecture that shapes everything you touch. You, friend, are not a passenger in this current. You are the current itself. The question is, are you flowing or fragmenting? Each thought you think, each emotion you feed, alters the signal your body sends. Imagine your heart as a subtle sun, radiating a magnetic weather around you. When your mind and heart drift apart, that weather turns stormy. But when you breathe them into rhythm, the atmosphere clears. The field listens. The day begins to rearrange itself around your harmony. So this is your moment of awakening. No striving, no pretending. Just notice the frequency you're in right now, the one humming quietly beneath your words. Feel it, not as concept, but as living sensation. That's the first doorway, because from here everything can change. Not by force, but by coherence. Not by chasing light, but by becoming the calm that light rushes to meet. This is where your true vibration begins, not in the noise of doing, but in the stillness of remembering what you already are. The stillness you touched at the end of that last moment, that quiet pulse between breaths, is where the real science begins. You may not see it, but your body is speaking in light and magnetism. Each heartbeat sends a wave through the air around you, a measurable signature of who you are in that instant. Researchers studying the electromagnetic field of the heart discovered that it extends several feet beyond the body. But ancient mystics already knew this, didn't they? They spoke of the heart as a sun, a sacred center of rhythm and knowing. Two languages, one revelation. Your emotions are not perfect, they are transmissions. When your heart beats in a smooth, rhythmic pattern, gratitude, compassion, calm, your electromagnetic field becomes coherent. Imagine a choir of cells all singing in tune. That coherence doesn't just make you feel peaceful, it synchronizes the entire symphony of your biology. Your brain waves, hormones, and immune system begin to dance to the same tempo, and coherence, in turn, radiates outward. Think of yourself as a living lighthouse, sending subtle patterns into the quantum ocean. The waves you emit influence the probabilities around you, bending them gently toward harmony. You might call that luck, coincidence, or grace, but underneath, it's physics wearing a poetic disguise. Incoherence, though, is another story. When anxiety floods your bloodstream or resentment tightens your breath, your heart's rhythm turns jagged. The field becomes chaotic, fragmented, noisy. Your body feels at first shallow breath, racing thoughts, tension behind your eyes. But the outer world responds, too. Encounters become strained, doors close, the flow reverses. This is why ancient traditions always began with the breath. It's not superstition, it's bioengineering. The breath is the tuning knob between chaos and coherence. Slow it, lengthen it, and the field reorganizes. Your heart becomes a conductor once more, sending ripples of clarity through matter itself. You may notice this in subtle ways. Conversations feel easier, timing improves, creativity returns. It's as if the air itself remembers how to support you, because when your emotional field stabilizes, reality can finally hear you clearly. And yet, here's the deeper truth few mention. Coherence isn't something you achieve, Bante, it's a living pulse. A rhythm you renew each time you return to awareness. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to be present. The physics of feeling begins with that small surrender, the willingness to notice your own heartbeat and remember that it's more than muscle. It's your first instrument, your quiet laboratory of light. From this recognition arises a new practice, learning to broadcast that harmony consciously. Because once you understand that the heart is not a metaphor but a transmitter, you can begin to choose the signal you send. And when you do, life itself begins to harmonize around your chosen note. You can feel it now, the hum beneath your skin. That soft awareness from your heartbeat's rhythm still echoes, carrying us forward. Let's follow it deeper into the hidden architecture of communication that never uses words. Every emotion, every fleeting thought creates a waveform. It's not a metaphor, it's measurable. The field around you vibrates with the signature of your feeling state. Picture it like ripples on the surface of a vast, invisible lake. When your inner world is calm, those ripples flow outward in perfect symmetry. When you are fearful or angry, the surface breaks apart, scattering reflections in all directions. Your body then becomes a broadcast tower. The question isn't whether you're sending a signal, it's what message the universe is currently receiving. You've already noticed how people respond differently when you're peaceful versus when you're restless. It's not charisma, luck, or accident, it's resonance. The science behind this rests on what physicists call entrainment. Two oscillating systems, say, the pendulums of clocks on the same wall eventually synchronize when sharing space. The same is true for human beings. Your emotional frequency subtly pulls others into rhythm. That's why a single calm person can steady a chaotic room, and why a stressed crowd can overwhelm even the most grounded heart. From a quantum lens, your signal doesn't end at the skin. The field of possibilities, that invisible sea surrounding all things, reads your emotional pattern as an instruction. If you radiate confusion, it mirrors confusion. If you radiate gratitude, coherence begins to bloom in the probabilities around you. Life bends toward your tone, but coherence is fragile if left unconscious. Each reactive thought, every spike of worry, resentment, or self-doubt scrambles the message. Imagine trying to tune a radio between stations. The static isn't evil. It's simply unrefined data. The task isn't to suppress noise, but to refine the signal. You refine it through awareness by catching the instant your body tightens, or your breath shortens, and choosing to breathe again. This single act reclaims the broadcast. The field listens instantly. It doesn't judge your past frequencies. It responds to the one you emit right now. And here lies the quiet power, hidden in plain sight. The quantum field doesn't interpret your words, it mirrors your state. You can say, "I'm abundant," 1,000 times, but if your energy hums with lack, the echo returns empty. Yet a few minutes of genuine coherence, heart steady, breath slow, emotion sincere, sends a clear command that reality cannot ignore. What happens next may look like synchronicity, a door opening, a call arriving, an idea unfolding, but it's simply resonance fulfilling its own law. The broadcast met the listener, and the universe played your note back. You begin to realize then that manifestation isn't magic, it's communication. The field is fluent in emotion, not language. It hears coherence, not repetition. It follows the frequency, not the wish. And when you understand that, the power shifts from forcing outcomes to maintaining vibration. Because what you maintain, you magnetize. What you embody, you extend. And what you love, you amplify into the fabric of the world. So take a moment now. Feel the quiet pulse returning to your chest. Imagine your entire body glowing faintly, broadcasting peace into the unseen. You're not asking life to change. You're letting life remember what you truly are. The last image still shimmers that quiet glow. The field around your body pulsing with intention. Hold it there as the light of morning begins to rise, because the way you enter a day sets the shape of its entire frequency. The morning is not simply a clockwork start, it is a gate. Every dawn, your consciousness passes through a rare neurological corridor, a bridge between dream and waking. In those few tender minutes, your brain waves drift between theta and alpha, the same frequencies used in deep meditation. The walls between the conscious and the subconscious are thin there, almost transparent. What you feel, what you think, what you focus on in that fragile window doesn't just color the day, it imprints it. Most people squander that portal. They reach for the phone, feed their nervous system a storm of notifications, and unknowingly reprogram their field with chaos before their feet even touch the floor. The static begins before the signal, but you can reclaim that moment. You can choose coherence before the world chooses confusion for you. Imagine this instead: you wake slowly, aware of the rhythm of your breath before a single thought forms. The air feels different, gentle, alive. Place a hand over your chest, where the subtle engine of your field beats quietly. Feel its warmth. With each inhale, you invite clarity. With each exhale, you release residue from dreams or worry. Now, guide your breathing into symmetry. 5 slow counts in, 5 slow counts out. Visualize the breath entering and leaving through your heart, not your lungs. This simple shift transforms physiology. Your nervous system receives a signal of safety, and your heart's rhythm smooths into coherence. From a scientific perspective, this is called heart-brain synchronization. From a spiritual one, it's communion. The two are not separate truths, only different descriptions of the same sacred mechanics. As you breathe, summon a feeling, not a thought, of gratitude. It doesn't need to be grand. Gratitude for the breath itself will do. Gratitude recalibrates your signal faster than any mantra because it engages emotion, and emotion is the field's native language. Within 3 minutes, your electromagnetic signature changes measurably. The chemistry of your blood shifts. The quantum probabilities surrounding you begin to organize around calm order. This morning practice is your alignment ritual. You are no longer reacting to yesterday's residue. You are composing today's frequency. Think of it like tuning a stringed instrument before performance. Every note of the coming day depends on it. And if you forget, that's all right. The morning isn't a one-time event. Each breath you take later in the day can reopen that same gate. Coherence isn't bound to sunrise. It lives in any moment you pause to remember yourself. Still, the morning holds a special potency. It's your first conversation with the quantum field each day. Start it not with demands, but with presence. Whisper with your energy rather than your words. I am ready to harmonize. As the day unfolds, notice what changes, the way strangers meet your eyes, the small coincidences that seem to follow your calm, the sense that reality itself listens more attentively when you wake aligned, because in truth, it does. The field mirrors the first vibration you send, and when that vibration begins in coherence, the day hums in tune. You become not just a participant in time, but its composer, and so the next layer reveals itself. If the morning is your tuning, then the rest of the day is your concert. The challenge is not in reaching the note, but in staying there, especially when the noise of the world swells. That's where we go next. You can still feel it, can't you? That soft coherence from the morning breath. like a thread of gold woven through your awareness. But as the hours move, the world tests it. A sharp word from a coworker, an unexpected delay, the endless notifications pulsing like static. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, your signal drifts. This is how coherence dissolves, not through catastrophe, but through 1,000 tiny fractures of attention. The mind reacts, the body tightens, the frequency falls. Yet here lies the hidden mastery. You can return to harmony in seconds, anywhere, anytime. That act is called the micro reset. A micro reset is not an escape, it's a remembering. A momentary pause that interrupts the old neurological loop, the one where emotion hijacks biology and reaction blinds awareness. Neuroscientists describe it as re-engaging the parasympathetic system, but spiritually, it's far simpler. It's your soul catching up with your body. Here's how it unfolds. The moment you feel the heat rise in your chest, or your breath shorten, or your focus scatter, stop. Don't fix, don't analyze, just stop. Feel the weight of your body supported by the chair, the ground, the earth itself. Let gravity hold what your mind is trying to carry. Next, soften your shoulders, drop your jaw. Exhale longer than you inhaled. That simple ratio sends an ancient message to your nervous system: safe now. The cascade begins. Heart rate slows, cortisol lowers, coherence starts to rebuild. Now, place a subtle awareness on your heart, not to change it, but to listen. Remember the feeling of gratitude you cultivated this morning. Call it up like a familiar song. Not with effort, but with affection. You'll feel the rhythm shift again, smooth and steady, like a lake reclaiming its stillness after a stone's splash. This is the moment the micro reset completes. The field recalibrates. Your inner weather clears. From the quantum perspective, what just happened is astonishing. You collapsed a chaotic waveform, anger, anxiety, fear, into a coherent signal simply by witnessing it without judgment. Observation is creation. Awareness is alchemy. The very act of noticing changes the data of your life. You'll find this practice grows easier with repetition. Each time you pause, you strengthen neural pathways of peace. Your body begins to anticipate coherence, to prefer it. The emotional storms that once hijacked entire days now dissolve within a breath. You reclaim hours of your life that used to vanish in reactivity. Some people call this emotional regulation, others mindfulness. But through the lens of the field, it's energetic maintenance, tuning your frequency the way a musician checks her instrument between songs. You wouldn't perform an entire concert without retuning. Neither should you move through a day without small recalibrations of presence. There's beauty in this rhythm. Stress comes, you breathe. The world wobbles, you pause. A harsh word arrives. You meet it with coherence rather than defense. Gradually, you stop losing energy to resistance. You begin to move like water fluid, powerful, calm, and in that fluidity, something remarkable happens. You start influencing environments simply by entering them. People feel safer around you, though they can't explain why. The air seems to soften. Conversations turn gentler. It's not manipulation, it's entrainment. Your coherent signal steadies the surrounding chaos until harmony becomes contagious. This is the secret power of the micro reset. It doesn't just return you to balance. It ripples balance outward. You become a quiet stabilizer in the noise, a living metronome of peace. Carry this awareness as the day unfolds. The world will keep offering you chances to practice, not to test you, but to remind you of who you are beneath the static. And as you begin mastering this art of returning, a new question rises naturally from the calm. If every micro reset gathers your scattered focus, then what would happen if you learned to hold that focus, to protect it like sacred light? The breath settles. The ripples fade. You've felt what it means to return, to recalibrate the moment before it collapses into chaos. But now the terrain changes, because coherence isn't only about emotion, it's about attention. The way you spend it, the way the world spends you. Attention is the most traded resource on the planet, and yet it's invisible. Billions of signals fight to claim it, every vibration of your phone, every flicker of a headline, every algorithmic lure whispering, "Look here." Each fragment you surrender drains a little of your frequency's voltage. You end the day exhausted, not because you've done too much, but because your awareness was scattered into 1,000 open tabs of energy. Quantum physics tells us that what you observe becomes real. But what happens when you observe everything and belong nowhere? The field receives a scrambled broadcast, not a melody, but static. No wonder manifestation feels slippery. Goals dissolve, or peace keeps escaping. The signal is diffused before it can form. To reclaim it, you must treat attention as sacred currency. Every moment you choose to focus, you're investing in a reality. Every time you reclaim your gaze from distraction, you reclaim energy from entropy. Presence is not a luxury, it's energetic hygiene. Start small. When you sip water, just sip. When you walk, feel your steps connect with gravity's rhythm. When you listen to someone speak, imagine your awareness as light streaming fully toward them, no commentary, no comparison, just presence. This single act of undivided focus creates coherence. In the heart, in the mind, in the field. There's science behind this stillness. Focus stabilizes neural oscillations. It reduces random firing in the brain's networks, allowing new patterns of clarity to emerge. Spiritually, it's remembering that your consciousness is not a passenger, it's the projector. When the lens is clean, the image sharpens. But here's the trap: the modern world feeds on your scattered focus. The more distracted you are, the more predictable. The more predictable, the easier to influence. So attention becomes rebellion. The quiet act of presence, of not giving your frequency away, becomes a declaration of sovereignty. Imagine holding your awareness like a beam of light. Each thought, each sensation, each sound passes through that light, and what aligns with peace stays illuminated while the rest fades into shadow. This isn't control, it's curation. You decide what nourishes the signal over time. This focused coherence changes the architecture of your reality. You begin noticing patterns others overlook. The right words arrive at the right moment. Your creativity sharpens. Even your body chemistry shifts. Cortisol lowers, endorphins rise. The heart's rhythm steadies. Your entire being learns to move as one current of awareness rather than scattered sparks. And perhaps the most profound part: this discipline doesn't make you rigid. It makes you spacious. You no longer react to every vibration around you. You observe. You select. You choose resonance consciously, like a musician choosing which notes to sustain. So when the day pulls at your attention, the endless alerts, the noise, the urgency of others, remember, you are not a receiver, you are the transmitter. Every time you choose what to focus on, you choose what becomes real in your field. This is the quiet revolution of consciousness. Not louder thoughts, sharper awareness. Attention reclaimed is energy refined. Energy refined is frequency stabilized. Frequency stabilized is reality transformed. And as your focus matures into mastery, a new possibility appears on the horizon, a way to protect and sustain this frequency, not by withdrawal, but by design. What if you could walk through the noise untouched, carrying coherence like an atmosphere? That's the next revelation. That horizon you just glimpsed, the idea of walking through noise untouched, is not fantasy. It's a skill. You've already begun to sense it during your micro resets, in those breath-length intervals where peace wrapped around you like a soft membrane. What if that membrane could stay with you, widening until it became an atmosphere you live inside? This is the sanctuary field, not a wall, not armor, but resonance shaped by compassion. The old model of protection, bracing, hardening, closing fractures, coherence. Fear tightens the signal. Love stabilizes it. True energetic boundaries are built not from resistance, but from rhythm. Start with the body. Bring your awareness again to the space behind your sternum, where your pulse begins its slow metronome. Breathe there until the rhythm steadies. Now, imagine a golden warmth expanding outward from that point, not forced, simply permitted. It spreads through your chest, shoulders, limbs, until it fills the entire field around you like a gentle sphere of light. Scientists studying the heart's electromagnetic field have found that its rhythm changes the field's shape, smoother when calm, jagged when fearful. You're practicing that science right now. Every exhale smooths the waveform. Every inhale expands its radius. You are literally sculpting the geometry of your space. Let the light keep expanding until it reaches the edge of your perception. It's not solid, more like a luminous mist woven with intelligence. It knows what belongs and what doesn't. You don't have to monitor it. Coherence does the filtering for you. Anything resonant passes through effortlessly. Anything dissonant loses amplitude and fades. Feel the difference in your body. Muscles loosen, thoughts quiet. The boundary isn't a barrier, it's a frequency filter. You are no longer against the world. You are simply in tune with what serves the song. From a quantum view, this field functions as an interference pattern. When coherent waves meet incoherent ones, the latter cancel out, leaving only harmony, spiritually. It's grace in motion, your presence reorganizing reality without force. Now imagine moving through a crowded space while holding this gentle sphere. People's moods, the hum of anxiety, the urgency in the air, all of it washes through your field and exits transformed. Some will feel calmer around you without knowing why. Others will mirror your ease. You become a subtle conductor, guiding emotional weather toward balance. But remember, the sanctuary field isn't about escaping human experience. Pain still visits, noise still surrounds, life still happens. The difference is that none of it sticks. Like rain on a lotus leaf, experience touches you and rolls away, leaving your core dry and radiant. You'll notice small confirmations. Situations that once drained you now pass easily. Conflict softens. The same world feels lighter. That's coherence sustaining itself. Your system learning to remain centered without constant correction. To strengthen it, return often to gratitude. Gratitude densifies the field, adds texture to its light. It tells the body, we are safe enough to love. And safety is what transforms defense into resonance. Practice this not as a visualization, but as a living physics experiment. The field responds instantly. You can sense its expansion with every conscious breath. And when you hold it through movement, walking, speaking, listening, you realize the sanctuary isn't something you create. It's something you remember. For you were never meant to absorb every vibration around you. You were designed to translate them, to transmute discord into harmony simply by existing in awareness. And once you live within that luminous membrane long enough, another awareness dawns. The field doesn't end with you. It extends, overlaps, mingles with others. Boundaries become bridges. Your sanctuary becomes contagious, which leads us to the next unfolding: how your coherence doesn't stop at your skin, but ripples outward into the collective field, tuning the symphony of the world itself. The golden light hasn't vanished. it's only widened. You might even feel it now, the subtle pressure of presence that doesn't belong to just you anymore. When coherent fields overlap, they don't collide, they resonate. They create a network, a living web of shared awareness pulsing quietly beneath human noise. Every time you stabilize your own frequency, you alter this web. It's not poetic exaggeration, it's resonance mathematics. Studies in neurocardiology and group coherence show that when people synchronize heart rhythms through gratitude or compassion, even at a distance, the electromagnetic data shifts measurably. The collective pulse steadies. The field remembers harmony. This is the unseen influence you carry. Every room you enter reads your signal. People feel it first in their bodies, the way they relax around you without understanding why. The sudden ease in their tone. Coherence communicates faster than speech. Before words are spoken, the field decides if safety is present. Think of humanity as an orchestra tuning before a performance. Each heart a string, each thought a vibration. When enough instruments align, even imperfectly, a larger harmony emerges that guides the rest. That's how social coherence is born, not from agreement, but from rhythm. You've felt both extremes. Step into a tense meeting and your chest tightens before anyone speaks. Or walk into a calm, joyful home and your body exhales without permission. Your nervous system is reading fields, not faces. It's entraining to invisible data. Now imagine what happens when you bring your sanctuary field into such spaces. You don't need to preach peace. You embody it. Your stable rhythm offers the group a new reference point, a silent invitation to align. Some accept immediately, others resist, but the offering remains. Like a tuning fork, you need only vibrate. Nearby strings eventually respond. Quantum models call this non-local coherence. Spiritual teachers call it presence. Either way, the effect is identical. Your internal order influences external patterns. You begin to notice coincidences multiplying, relationships softening, communities slowly reflecting the calm you've cultivated. But here's the humility required: this influence isn't control. The moment you try to make others change, your frequency fractures back into ego and effort. Coherence leads by example, not dominance. Its power lies in permission. You hold the vibration steady, and those ready to rise will naturally meet it. Over time, the impact deepens. Families begin to argue less. Workplaces grow kinder. Strangers feel seen. It's easy to dismiss these as small miracles, but they are the foundations of collective evolution. The quantum field doesn't leap, it ripples. Every coherent heartbeat adds amplitude to the shared waveform we call humanity. And yet, this awareness comes with responsibility. To sustain coherence within a social field, you must practice radical empathy, understanding that every chaotic signal you encounter is simply someone else's field seeking order. Respond with resonance, not resistance. Your calm becomes a service. This is how true change begins, one self-regulated nervous system at a time. The revolution isn't fought, it's felt. Each breath you take in coherence sends a subtle algorithm into the field data of peace, patterns of unity. When enough of us hold that signal long enough, the probability of compassion in the collective field increases. The news may not show it, but the resonance is building underground, quiet as roots before spring. So when you feel small, remember this: your calm recalibrates worlds. Your kindness rewires timelines. The field is democratic, every frequency counts. You are both citizen and architect of a new vibrational civilization, constructing it breath by conscious breath. And as this social harmony begins to take shape around you, the next realization dawns naturally: coherence must become more than a practice. It must become a way of living, a rhythm so familiar that returning to it no longer requires thought. That's where we go next. You can feel it now, the widening calm that isn't effort anymore. The collective rhythm humming around you, subtle but steady. It's one thing to taste coherence in a single breath or morning ritual, another to weave it through the fabric of an ordinary day until it becomes instinct. That weaving begins with devotion, not discipline. Discipline demands, devotion remembers. Discipline fights the noise, devotion listens beneath it. To live coherently is to remember, again and again, that you are never separate from the field you shape. Every musician knows instruments drift out of tune no matter how masterful the player. Temperature changes, strings stretch, the environment shifts. It's not failure, it's physics. The same is true of your energy. Stress, stimulation, even joy at high intensity can bend your frequency slightly off key. The work is not to prevent the drift, but to retune quickly, lovingly, without judgment. The daily retuning ritual doesn't need candles or hours of silence. It asks for 3 simple ingredients: breath, attention, and sincerity. Breath anchors biology. Attention focuses intention. Sincerity charges the signal. Combine them and coherence arises naturally. The way sunrise follows darkness without effort. You can practice in micro moments. Waiting in line, walking between tasks, before answering a message. Use these thresholds as tuning forks. Pause. Breathe through the heart. Feel for gratitude any spark of it. That's enough to re-enter resonance. Eventually, you'll sense when your frequency drifts before symptoms appear. Subtle cues, a flicker of irritation, a shallow breath, an urge to rush. These are not mistakes. They are invitations. Every return strengthens your nervous system's memory of coherence. Over time, the return becomes reflex. From a scientific perspective, this process rewires your neural pathways. The vagus nerve, the great communicator between heart and brain, learns stability as its default. From a spiritual one, your awareness learns to sit at the still point amid movement. You start to live inside a sustained rhythm rather than chase it, and the benefits ripple outward. You make decisions more intuitively, because intuition is coherence in motion. You tire less, because resistance drains more energy than activity ever will. You feel time differently, less as a series of tasks, more as one continuous flow of unfolding presence. But consistency requires kindness. Some days, coherence feels effortless. Others, it hides beneath storms of thought. That's fine. Even the planet's magnetic field fluctuates. The secret is not to panic when you lose the signal, simply to listen for it. The moment you notice dissonance, you're already halfway home. Here's a practice to anchor that memory each night before sleep. Recall 3 moments when you returned to calm, however briefly. Feel appreciation for each return. This isn't self-congratulation, it's neural reinforcement. You're teaching your system that returning is victory, not failure. The brain loves repetition. It learns from celebration. Soon, coherence stops feeling like meditation and starts feeling like breathing. You won't have to do it. You'll simply be it. The tuning happens in real time, the way a dancer adjusts mid-step without thinking. And this is when you realize coherence was never the goal. It was the doorway. Because once you've learned to sustain that frequency, you begin to merge with it entirely. There is no practice left, no observer watching the rhythm, only the rhythm itself, alive through you. That is the final passage, becoming the vibration, not managing it. Living as the field, not in reaction to it. The difference between awareness and embodiment, between knowing light and being light. And that, my friend, is where we arrive next. You've spent these chapters tuning, refining, returning. You've breathed coherence into form, felt your field expand, watched the world begin to echo your calm. But now something deeper calls not another technique, but a transformation. What happens when the one doing the practice dissolves, and only the practice remains? That's what it means to become the vibration. At first, coherence feels like something you build, a rhythm you must remember, a breath you must monitor. But eventually, it begins to remember you. Your nervous system learns the melody. Your cells hum it without prompting. You don't generate peace. You are peace-generating form. This isn't about perfection or permanent bliss. The body still moves through seasons. Emotions still rise and fall like tides. But the awareness beneath them no longer fractures. You remain the quiet sea beneath every wave. This is the frequency made flesh, a living resonance that neither clings nor resists. From the quantum view, this is the collapse of separation. Observer and observed fuse into one dynamic field. You no longer send signals into the universe. You are the universe signaling itself through you. Reality stops feeling like something out there. Every encounter becomes feedback. Every coincidence a mirror, every breath a message in both directions. In that state, manifestation changes meaning. It's no longer about calling things to you, it's about revealing what's already harmonized with your field. Life unfolds from the inside out, not the outside in. Synchronicity becomes normal. Intuition becomes logic, and effort gives way to elegance. You may notice simple miracles, conversations resolving before conflict arises. Strangers offering kindness without cause, timing aligning without strategy. These are not proofs of power, they are reflections of harmony. The world rearranges itself to match your coherence because it is no longer separate from it. And the paradox, the less you try to hold this frequency, the longer it stays. The field sustains itself through surrender, not control. Coherence is self-renewing when left unguarded, like breathing, like love. At this stage, your awareness expands in two directions at once: inward, into stillness, and outward, into service. You feel connected to something vast, yet intimate. Compassion rises unbidden. You sense that your calm is not just personal comfort, but planetary contribution. The collective field hums through every heartbeat, asking only this: stay open. You'll find that even silence changes texture here. It feels alive, almost intelligent. The pauses between breaths sparkle with information. You sense guidance without words, clarity without thought. This is not mysticism. It's what happens when the bandwidth of consciousness widens enough to include everything. So now, when you walk through the world's city streets or forest paths, you carry this invisible song. You don't need to speak about it. You don't need to teach it. You simply radiate. Your mere presence recalibrates rooms. Not because you're special, but because you're clear. This is the living frequency: awareness made luminous, coherence made human. The proof is not in the phenomenon, but in the peace that doesn't break, even when life does. And when the storms come, as they always do, you will not brace against them. You'll breathe through them, because coherence isn't the absence of motion. It's motion mastered, the still point within the spin. Now the field and the self are indistinguishable. You are both the signal and the silence that carries it. The journey that began as learning how to hold high vibration ends here in the realization that you were never losing it. You were remembering it. This is the home frequency, the pulse behind all pulses, the soundless chord that never stops playing. And now, you are it. The final vibration still lingers in your awareness, that silent chord at the center of all motion. It doesn't fade when the words stop. It expands into the space they leave behind. That's where the truth of this journey lives, in the resonance that keeps humming after the teaching ends. Pause for a moment. Feel your breath as it is now unforced, steady, alive. That rhythm is the proof. You've tuned yourself to coherence, not as an exercise, but as existence. The same electromagnetic harmony that shapes galaxies is flowing through your veins, whispering through every atom that you are home. If you could see the field around you now, you'd see it glowing softly, not from effort, but from presence. You've learned that alignment isn't an achievement. It's a remembering, a returning, the way light naturally fills any open space. Carry that knowing with you. When the world rushes again, when noise, doubt, or emotion rise, you won't need to search for calm. It will be waiting, like a heartbeat beneath all sound. All you'll need to do is listen. One breath, one gentle return. And when you meet others who've forgotten their own stillness, let your frequency remind them without words. Let coherence ripple outward through kindness, through patience, through the soft power of being fully awake in a distracted world. That's how this transmission continues, not through the screen, but through you. The field doesn't end here. It's listening still, responding still, weaving the quiet changes you've begun into the fabric of your days. Every choice you make from coherence strengthens the global rhythm. Each moment of gratitude adds another strand of light to the collective song. So as you close your eyes tonight, or step into the next moment, whisper inwardly, not as ritual, but as realization, I am the calm in the center of creation. Let it settle deep. Feel how the air itself seems to respond, softening around you. That's coherence speaking back. That's the quantum field acknowledging its mirror. Stay gentle with yourself. Stay aware. You are no longer chasing high vibration. You are living it quietly, steadily, beautifully. And if this resonance helped you remember, share it. Let the signal expand, because every heart that awakens adds to the chorus. And together we tune the world toward harmony.